Okay, one thing I love about this, Gina, is that there's no grade on this. It's not mentioned anywhere the percentage of grade they got. It's all about content, mastery of objectives. And
Right.
even this, there's no, reflection of the grade they received. So I love that their focus.
Well, and to me, in fact, I actually had a student comment on it. They said, this is cool because you don't just get graded on it one time. That every time you go in there and you can see, your
Yes.
your progress. Like last time I was red and now I'm yellow. So they know, for one thing, it makes them know that, hey, I'm gonna see this again. It's not one and done, I'm gonna have a chance to redeem myself and to get better as I go. So they don't focus on the grade. They focus on each one of these standards instead, and they focus on, am I getting better? Not, I made a failing grade. Well, it's okay. We're not focusing on that. We're focusing on how you are in each one of these standards, and I feel like it takes some pressure off, but it also challenges them to see where they need to work. I had a student last year named Taylor that even said, hey, can you give me some extra work on 8.7A or whatever it was, because I'm really low in that. I'm like not passing that category, so I need some extra work on it. Of course, I had the honors kids. Are they all going to be like that? Probably not. But if you win with a couple of them, you win with a couple of them.
It's not hard though.
It's not hard.
Okay.
All they have to do is
all
find
you
it.
have to do is mark your answer, mark your response, and put it in there.
Yeah.
That's not
This
hard.
takes out of
Okay.
how many.
So that's the win.
It's very
And
easy.
so
Yeah.
then, the first time they may not get it, they may think this is a waste of time. That's fine.
I don't care.
Okay? They will see the point, but like if they are coming to that own realization on themselves, that's even more powerful than the kid that's like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. It's awesome.
Right. Yeah, I didn't have anybody just overjoyed and say, oh my gosh, this is, life changing. I didn't have anybody say that.
But by the end, the conversations reflected change.
The other thing is
Yes,
that
yes.
gives them confidence, like they're scared of the big test at the end of the year. If they're doing okay on most of the standards, they're not gonna be as overwhelmed thinking that they're not able. And I think they need to know that, they need to see that.
We hardly even, all year long, mention STAR, because if we're taking care of business here,
Yes,
doing
exactly.
this, it's gonna come naturally. And
Well,
so,
I think too, so if, we have this in science, we have this, in some other subjects, when it comes to like parent-teacher conference, when you look at like student-led conferences, what that looks like. If I'm a parent and my sixth grader gets out her folder and
on
says,
her laptop and goes in
and
the desk.
she does it, she leads it, she
Right.
tells the parent, it's what they have learned is huge.
She can click on her tabs down here and say, okay, well, in math, I'm doing,
And-
that's wonderful.
And we can start, like, even that process of,
I feel like your SPED goals for your IEPs would be way more focused if you had some
Oh,
sort of
yes.
standard like this and you knew which standard that they were struggling in, they could make goals based on that and you'd be able to measure those goals
Yes.
pretty effectively. Also, like if they did poorly on one standard this is the common end of unit assessment, right? Then you could add that additional assessments. If you're gonna do a
Right.
reteach of just that standard, they could figure that could go into their overall percentage and make them feel better, like get a reteach
well, like when
on
you're doing the
8.8A, go have 5 questions over 8.8A on like a little formative assessment after you've had some intervention, and then that can help raise your.
That is true.
Well,
Yeah,
like when
your
you-
class writing would be so much easier if you could refer to
I
it.
did
Yeah.
that out with the CFAs on here, I
Or
just
give
put
them
the
a problem like
CFAs on
this.
here, but that's why I have these
Well,
categories
that's what I
here.
thought, like, it almost lends itself to CFAs because they're over one standard, and it would be easy to be like, well, they got 3 out of 5.
And we can tweak
follow
this
that
every
one
time we have a
standard.
different test, or whatever.
You
yeah.
could use it as much or little, at the base level, you could use it for the units, but if you wanted to add CFAs in there, you definitely could.
And I love it that you've already done little boxes, cause I hate doing that kind of stuff.
Well, yeah, you just make a copy of the
I
blank,
will,
and
and
then
then
for every test, for every unit test, after you've made your test, you just go in
Yeah.
and type in the standards, tell them whether it's a review standard. They know the reviews are gonna count, cause I'm responsible with that, cause I've already had
Put
it.
your new ones
Whether
on.
it's a current standard or where, I think this last 5, we're supposed to be checked over here, and they know that they don't have to put these last 5 on there. Because at first we started putting all of them on here, but if they made like 0 on the, preview ones,
Yeah,
it messes their
down there.
average up.
And you're just doing
So
that
we
for
just
you
took-
anyway.
Yeah, so we just took those off.
Yeah.
Yeah, But I put them on there because, you know, the fourth question, what do we do if they already know? And so I wanted to have those on there just for my information. But yeah, as far as the kids, it's super easy. All they have to do is look, okay, here's my 8.6a. I've got one, you know, how many of those do I have? Just one. And so I find my 8.6a, and if I got that one right, then I just make a fraction, 1 out of 1.
Yeah.
And boom, it just shows me my.
I mean, I do this work anyway on their review sheet when they're going back. This is just nicer.
And if you group the teaks when you make the test and put them in order, and it's not all over the place, if you put these 5 questions over this teak, these 5 questions over, it makes you from bouncing around. And I know that's kind of impossible in RLA, but in the other ones, it would be possible to go through and kind of clump them by teak.
Yeah, true. I just did this because they're by item number, and it, you know, makes it easier as we're going through, you know,
Yep.
because they're writing down what their answers are.
But I mean, like in your test, if you made the item numbers in order by teak,
Oh, yeah,
like your test is built by teak, like obviously not your review standards, but the rest of them, you pretty much have it.
true.
You've only got C's and
Like
M's
a
out of the way.
couple of-
I try to rearrange them so that the you know, new things are at the end of the test, just so it is a little, but I didn't have them arranged by standard, but.
Well, I think too, you're not trying to trick them on the standard.
No.
This is
Oh,
what it
right,
is.
right.
And so, like, I don't think it's gonna hurt that this question is about to be over.
Well,
You know what I mean? Like, I don't mean, I
And
think
I've seen
that
some-
sort of thing is like a shift, because it was like, they don't even know what's coming next. Well,
Yeah.
what's
well,
it
they
gonna
never
matter?
go for it. And like I've seen some tests that were made by like model PLC schools, and like it'll have like a little heading that they make in between the standards. It's like, these questions are over 8.5D, this is the definition of 8.5D, and then here's the question.
I
And then the
love
next,
it.
and that's not hard to do, to add some directions.
Can we do
in
that in
there.
EduFriend?
You can
Okay.
add directions
Right.
over each section.
Okay.
Again, RLA excluded, because y'all can't do this, but, because y'all just buy, you know,
Yeah.
half of this all
Yeah.
together. But everybody else, it can be, or you could list the front of the, you could say these are our teaks or our priority, it's just your priority, obviously, but.
Well, I've always kept my teaks, my standards on the board to go over with the kids, but have they ever learned them? No. Do they, you know, with this, they are having an understanding of what
Because they wanna know.
the objectives
Yes,
are, you know,
yes.
because they're actually going and keeping up with it themselves. And I like the tabs, I didn't even think about that, I thought about having different ones.
Yeah.
But having the tabs would be good. Some of the things I need to work on though, is making sure that these cells are protected.
Yeah.
Like I did that, but somehow.
Freeze it?
Well, I don't remember how I did it, but there are ways that you can go in and,
Brittany Beard is really
But-
good at that kind of training, you need to email her.
yeah, I need to work on a couple of things like that.
This
And
is
Yeah,
what
cause
she
you
does
want
for
the kids to be able to
standards-based
type in it, but then you don't want them to be able to change it.
She has a lot of, good things, cause they, you know, they have a standard-based report card in elementary and it's rolling up to intermediate, and so this is how they do their report card, is graded by standard methods.
Well, I think the next time we meet, we should probably talk about, you know, how we wanna roll it out. Do we wanna do it, you know, just, you know, one class at a time, or, you know, wait till the second 6 weeks, or how we wanna do it? I could just do science 6 weeks, but it's gonna take some time to get all the standards in there, for one thing.
Well, and everybody's gonna be reviewing their priority standards, like not everybody's are gonna be
Right.
the same as they were from the previous year.
Yep, so we probably need to wait a while until everybody gets their priority standards.
I think we start with science.
Okay,
Like, roll it out, so every kid knows, they know how to do it, and then we can introduce the other subjects.
And I
I
think
mean,
y'all's
should we go
priority
ahead?
standards are the most set out of any other department right now.
probably, and we have some that we wanna go back and add too, so.
Should like the reading teacher, should we go ahead and get that all set up before?
And I think take that time to do that, where it's
Yeah.
right, we're not just rushing
Did
through
we
it.
do that during those?
Well, I can take a template and,
Yeah, I'd like to do it in my first unit test.
Well, I mean, like, if we're gonna review all our priority standards, that'll be before
Yeah.
school even starts, so
Okay.
we'll have some
That
time
would
to work on
But
that.
I mean, it's got
Kind of
15
set-
days.
Look at our
before
data
she-
from
I
last
don't
year.
have to set,
I
I
think
think
that would be good
before
for
she
us to
days
do
of
it.
school, but I
We're
think
gonna
we
try
have to
that
before we take our
right.
first test.
I
Or
know.
just after we take scouts.
Yeah. And we don't have to feel rushed or stressed
Thanks for
out,
letting me
because we
know.
can always, if we're doing these sheets, we can, and this is something you can do, you can go ahead and start working on these. I put these sheets in my unit test folders,
Okay.
so in Google Drive, so for, you know, once I've made this and I'm gonna keep my unit test, then I've got this in there, so I just print that off, so
So you keep a unit test folder in your classroom?
in my drive, yeah.
Oh, okay, in the drive.
Yeah, so in my drive, let's see, show you where I got it.
That's a good point. You could just start with these and take your time, you know.
Yeah,
it's
it
gonna
would
take
be
a long
hard
time
to
to
start
start
there.
there.
No.
And you could just
But
leave
you
it.
could-
No, I think
I don't see any
science
reason
is
Yes.
why we
I
have
take
to,
'em up
why we
because
can't start keeping
they're
But I
track
think
of
this is
it.
the end of a roll at the bottom of
Yeah.
paper for all the other subjects.
I love it.
But science can just enter it.
Yes, I think
And
science can go
then
ahead straight,
we
yeah.
build.
They could go and enter it, but if it took you a while.
Maybe by unit
okay.
2, we can start talking to them about putting it in there.
Yeah.
Cause, I mean, there's a lot to get used to
Mhm.
at the beginning of the year, but, I mean,
I don't think
goal
this would
setting.
be hard.
No, and them actually seeing what they did, not their grade, but what they did.
Right.
From the beginning to the end, I like.
Well, used to, we
Little
just
thing at the
focused
bottom.
on their grade. You made a 40, you need to do better, but this is just so much better.
I like
my
it.
unit plans. I don't remember where I've got it. I've got the folders in here, so in the folder with the test.
And I love it, when a, parent asks a student, how are you doing in their class? The student doesn't even need to ask the teacher, they can almost answer it themselves, you know?
Well, see, and at one of that, did you hear that about the student-led conferences while we were at the thing?
I didn't hear about it there, but
I did hear somebody say that, I thought that is game changing, to have the student, I always like to have the student in there, but the student actually leading the conference is
Yeah.
great.
Yes,
Yeah.
cause it's their learning and yes, so everyone's,
And then middle school is a good time to
take
start.
ownership of it, yeah.
Well, even the kids that are doing well, you could say anytime you feel like you're doing really well and you wanna share with your parents, how are you doing? You can call a conference and have your mom come up here and you can sit and show her.
And that's
you know?
good practice,
Right.
just, I mean, not even talking
It
about for
is.
science, just for real
Life.
world,
Mhm.
being a, public, speaking.
Yes, exactly. So anyway,
And on this, what you could do, like for people that aren't entering it yet, you could even put something down here like there was this many questions, like for like standard 8.58, there was 4
that's what
questions.
they usually do, is just
Okay.
And make
online, they
little
just
totals
go
at
through
the
it.
bottom by standard, and so then it's really
Right.
ready to just go, and you're
Right.
done. You know what I mean? That would make it even.
I like the idea of maybe doing any claim though, I think that's
I do
brilliant.
too, and I was thinking sixth graders, if they are more overwhelmed, it's, seventh and eighth probably gonna be, they have that entire year-long technology, every child has it. Well, this is so technology-based, I mean, what
They
they are
could do
using
that.
time, yes, they could work on it some during technology, and,
And we have downtime, we'll be able to get to it, I'm just,
But
It'd
there
be
may be a
nice if
day where like if we said, okay, it's Wednesday,
Mhm.
everybody, you were focusing on,
enter your passport.
yes,
Or
entering
you're
your
taking a
passport.
CFA, when you're done with your CFA, I want you to work on entering this.
Mhm.
Yeah.
From there.
and, cause other people are gonna still be working.
So I,
Right.
I think especially, I mean, the high kids, it's gonna help them, but my lower kids, the ones who like, feel like they never get anything, I feel like if they can actually see that they're growing
Yes.
and getting
And
it,
yeah,
it will encourage them.
it takes the focus off of, well,
What
I'm
you
red
don't-
on this one, but I'm green on this one, I'm
Yes.
yellow on this one.
Right,
I'm
and if
this,
you bring
I'm
them
this.
in and reteach it, and they do better, and they get to put that in
Then it
there and
changes,
see the
yes.
color
Right.
change, I think that
Yes.
helps.
I do too, to me, that's one of the biggest parts of it all, is them being able to manipulate it and put a number in and it change colors.
And
Just
just
that
they learn that
physical
valuable
thing.
lesson of, if I put some effort into something,
Mhm.
I'm probably gonna see results.
Right.
Yeah.
And I know it probably seems overwhelming at first, but I've been doing this for for a year, so I'm used to it, and it's not as bad as it seems.
I don't think it's bad.
But I think, and I wouldn't put the time into it, and I wouldn't ask people to take time out of their schedule to do it if I didn't think it was super important. And I'm not the only one, I mean, the research shows that it's
We just need
important.
to put this in our lesson plan too, so that day I can remind myself,
Just link it
get
there.
this out, yeah.
I'll have to figure out the timing, cause I have some kids who have time and a half, and it's just hard, but after you moved on, to go back and go over a test, but
Right.
what I could maybe do is do the questions they missed the most, or
Yeah.
something like
I
that.
ended up doing that a lot.
Yeah.
Well,
We'll
I've
figure it
had
out.
some
And it's- reading's the same thing, cause you don't wanna reread the whole passage.
Right, exactly.
I've had some that were late taking a test, maybe they're out of town or something, and so I just kept their passports in a folder, and the next time we took a unit test, I gave them both passports and they put them both in.
There you go.
So it's not, something that has to be done right then.
Uh-huh.
And, maybe the first year, kinda like Mr. Pearl always says, don't sink the ship, but maybe the first year that we do it, don't just super stress over it. It's a tool, and we're learning. I just think it'll make a big difference once the kids figure it out and
I
we're
think
doing
in the
it
end, it's gonna be less
routinely.
work.
I do too, and we'll have that data, like all the time, and like you said, especially with a parent conference, a kid saying, okay, here's my here's my passport, here's how I'm doing, I'm low on this standard, and it's not just what
Well,
my
and
average is.
I mean, let's
Right.
be real, I mean, it's not the teacher, I don't know, to me, it takes, like, it goes back to teaching versus learning.
Right.
I mean, we know that our teachers are teaching it, but it's, that time would be more about like what the student has learned.
Exactly.
And I love that I could, you know, like you said, a grade reflects someone, you don't know if it's just they haven't turned in their work, or they're doing poorly on the work they have turning in, or whatever, this is so much more insightful.
It's just better data.
Right.
I mean,
I can even look at that and tell, you know, what's going on with the student.
right,
whereas
it
the
doesn't
grade tells
take
me
into
nothing.
account
Yes.
bad days or,
Mhm.
you know, because they're having a chance to go back and redo
Well, I
it.
mean, and these are the things that we promised that they're gonna know, but, you know what I mean, like,
There's the priority standards.
and if they're not where they need to be, then we plan on and we
And
reteach
exactly.
a bit more, and we get, you know, until that they're in the green.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
whatever,
whatever,
the yellow
struggles
or-
with figuring out who to claim,
Mhm.
now there's no excuse, I
Right.
mean, you can simply look at those standards and be like.
And I
this
feel
is-
like that average works the best for y'all, because y'all spiral around so much, like, they're really gonna get a good picture
Yes.
on their teaks.
Mhm.
Cause ours, I mean, some of ours don't spiral around quite as much, but theirs would a lot.
Yeah, a lot.
I love it.
Right.
I may do this in conjunction with a poster where they actually can see it.
Yeah, I thought about
Like
that.
We
when
could
they-
just do classroom data by classroom, kind of redo.
When they master
Yeah.
something, I want them to have a visual reminder of that, yeah.
Yeah.
And I've turned it into a classroom versus classroom race, not individuals, but a classroom by classroom. You know, this is where Mrs.
We'll have a
Leach's
competition.
class was, this is where Miss Goodwin's class was, you know.
Right.
And you can get that information for a graph off of Aware, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, well, I think before our next meeting, I'll take this and make everybody's tabs on there. So I want reading,
I'm 99% sure Irene's gonna say yeah for math.
social
I think
studies.
with all the back work done by you, it
Oh.
makes it so much
Yeah,
easier
yeah.
for everybody
Thank
else.
you for creating it.
The idea of making that spreadsheet gives me a little bit of
Yeah,
hype.
me too. 'cause
No, it was fun, that's my,
Copying and
that's
pasting
my
it too.
jam.
I can do
But
that.
yeah, all they have to do is go in and fit, and
I'll
the
probably
kids
work
will
on
be
it.
way less stressed out about it than you are, cause
Yeah.
they just
Right.
get it,
I'll
you
probably
know.
work on that
And it
next
becomes
week
part
or
of their
so just to get it
routine,
done.
you know, they know the day after we take a test, or
Even
maybe a
if I have
couple
to
days
change it.
later, they're gonna get their passport back, and we can get it done, 15 or 20 minutes or whatever. You know, just think as they grow and they get used to it, and I love having them all on different tabs and keeping up with everything. So reading, social studies, math, that it, right?
Science.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's already on there, it's on the first tab. So I'll just make those tabs, and if you guys want, you can go ahead and,
Are you
you
gonna
can,
do
or
each grade level
I don't wanna
wise?
say, you have to do this or you have to do that, this is a team
There needs
thing.
to be like a 6th grade passport, a 7th grade passport, and 8th grade passport with 3 tabs or 4 tabs on each.
True.
So it would be
Like you said,
Well,
that we
yeah.
gotta get together first anyway.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, you can make that part of it, but like as far as entering priority
Well,
students,
and
I would want.
honestly,
so we all-
we
Well, I
can
have
do our own
reading.
math,
Yeah.
and they can do their reading, it's not a big deal to add 3 tabs and rename them.
Well, I've got 3, there's some,
Okay.
6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade all have their own.
Okay.
So I can just
Great.
add
Add tabs to them.
tab to bottom,
Okay.
tab
I
to
see what you're
bottom of
saying.
them. But, so before we meet again, I guess we need to decide when we wanna meet again. My idea, and what Stella and I talked about, is maybe taking 10 or 15 minutes after our, guiding coalition meetings, or maybe we're talking about while we're in Little Rock, if there would be any way during claim time sometime we could meet, or.
Well,
whatever
it makes sense, a lot of it, I think, would just be looking at,
schedules and all that.
being able just to sit down and look at it, but even
Right.
like, for guiding coalition, I think it would be great to be able to have fresh minds at 10 o'clock. Versus always at 4 o'clock.
And trying to rush
And-
out and leave.
And if
not-
you look at, what they said, we think the time is valuable for teacher teams to meet, if the guiding coalition is the leader of that group, then why would we expect to not be able to meet during the day?
Right.
And like if
Just
we're doing that
thinking out loud.
if we're doing that day-to-day RTI schedule, or if they just wouldn't have a schedule for that day, so they wouldn't have kids that we have to displace, we would just schedule them to not have anyone, and
Oh,
those
that's
kids
a
can
good
go
idea.
back to wherever that would be easier to schedule with that system, and we can just say, you two, nobody's coming to you on that day, they have somewhere else to go, y'all can come, no classes together.
Well, if we could schedule this meeting in occasionally and her meeting in occasionally, that'd be great. That way we can kind of come back. But yeah, I wouldn't, until you get your priority standards nailed down, I wouldn't start doing this, but I'll work form, and just think about how you might wanna change this up.
Well, I think next steps too, are we gonna go next steps?
Yeah.
Talking about it in CTMs. I mean, I think that hopefully we will have some time during PD.
I think we'll get a lot of this.
But I think everybody's like, I mean, PD's just, there's a lot. And so like, once CTM starts, cause we're all wanting to revisit the priority standards, start laying the groundwork there. And, and then I think you need to be a part of rolling it out because, I mean, this is a lot of work, but you can speak what it's done for your kids.
So we just need to, we need to talk about how we wanna roll it out to everybody.
Maybe like end of August, cause we would have had PD in a couple of weeks of school.
Right.
And I think it goes right along with the guiding coalition. The purpose of the guiding coalition is to sort of, keep everyone on task with the PLC process. This is the.
Well, you're already doing it
So
with
it's
science, so
aligned
science teachers are not gonna be new to it. Math team's been talking about setting goals for a year.
We've been trying, but
So you're just giving us a foothold that we were wanting anyway. So I think the only team that will be new to it will be social studies, and I think it's smart to wait till the end of the month because we've got 3 new teachers.
Right. Well, yeah, we don't wanna.
Well, I just think really the only thing that the teams need to have in place is their progress standards, honestly, to roll this out, that's all you need. And so, if we need to have them by the end of PD week, like, we're gonna have them set, so. we should be ready to-
First day of school, those
First
should be
day of school, we know what we're gonna
And
be
we already
teaching
do
them.
this anyway. This is just a prettier
It
way to
is.
do it.
Okay, I will make a folder in the drive to put all the stuff in, so you guys can be looking at it, and I'll just make a folder called passport team and add you all to it, and I'll put all these documents in there, and we can look at it from there. Sound good?
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Alright.
We got 3 more minutes. We have 3 more minutes.
I was gonna say,
Oh, yeah, one thing we need to do, I forgot, we need to set our norms, we have to have that.
Okay, and what
So
is,
this will be good practice, because we have to do it for our other team, so let's do that real quick, since we kinda forgot to do that, so let's.
The next session on ones.
Okay, I'm gonna get over here. Yeah,
That'd
that
be
just,
longer than 3 minutes.
that's just, no, but I think you just found yourself a little PD home.
Okay, you know what, let's just write it down, because I don't even know where my keyboard is.
Michael,
Let's just write them down, and then I can add them later. Alright, anybody got any suggestions? What did, I had some notes on norms in my folder, cause one of them talked about what all your norms
Yeah, I wrote something.
have to be.
There was one that somebody said, it was like, let everybody speak once before someone speaks twice.
I thought that
Oh,
was like
that's
that.
good.
I mean-
Seems complicated to keep up with.
Well, not, but I mean, it just means that some person doesn't take over.
There's always somebody.
Because there's one at A, there's one all over the place to be taking over all the.
Well, why don't we just start with how often we need to meet?
okay.
Try to, meet once a month, once a month. After guiding coalition, do we?
Y'all have to text me because I'm not on that, so.
We'll take care of you.
Okay.
We'll meet once a month, we'll just say that.
and you can say time to be determined. How about
Yeah.
that?
Time to be determined.
Frequently take turns,
Yeah, just not letting one person, I don't know.
Take
How
turns
about-
sharing.
everyone contributes.
There you go. That's fancy language.
Don't present a problem without a solution.
Amen.
Oh, I love it.
That's one of my favorite.
Alright. What did you say about technology? No tech unless,
Necessary.
What about some polite technology?
oh,
There you
polite tech.
And sometimes after school, you've got, like, you may have to hear from your kid or.
Right. Okay, this is kind of a different thing, we don't really need a whole lot of norms, but anything else? We're gonna be on time. Yes. Be positive and proactive.
What do you want us to put on contribution to?
Oh, yeah,
Like,
okay, so on your sheet, like I said, this was something that we were supposed to fill out, because I think the idea was that they wanted us to focus on, they said choose your teams carefully. And so think about how you're choosing your teams. Well, I chose my teams by, I've got different departments, I've got, just different people represented. But I didn't wanna fill that out because I wanted you to fill that out. After you found out what, this was about, you tell me what you think what your strengths are that you can contribute to the team. I didn't wanna limit you to what I think you can contribute. So you just tell, mainly, like your experiences and, I've been a teacher for 25 years, or, I've been a teacher, a classroom teacher, and now I'm so just whatever your strengths are that you think that you can contribute to this team.
And then you want us to like refine priority standards by the next.
Just whenever you can get them, we'll just base that off whenever our priority standards are set, then we'll meet again. We'll just kinda have to be flexible, there we go. Flexible. Okay, alright,
Are these for us?
those are yours.
Thank you, I like that.
Yeah, I need this.